Welcome to Fire Up Your Life for Business with your host, Tony Fitzgerald. This episode is sponsored by Pike Law. Hey, Peter. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Tell me, what is this really all about?
Well, we like to interview local business people, and we like to find out what they're about and why somebody would use them. Why do you do this business? So we'll go through a series of questions and hopefully some answers and talk throughout this episode. So one of the first things that I want to ask you, Peter, is introduce yourself and your law firm and how long have you been doing this?
Well, I'm Peter Pike. I am an attorney. I've been practicing law for almost 40 years now. Started off in New York for about 20 years. Then about 20 years ago, moved down to Florida. I'm practicing here. I am board certified in real estate law. That means that's what I really specialize in. I do mostly real estate work. I do some business law and some corporate law, but real estate is the bread and butter of our firm.
Right. And I've worked with some people that also do real estate instead of their main thing. And, what I find is working with someone who is focused in your craft, which is real estate law, it's just so much easier of a process. I got a question. So in New York, you practice in New York and down here, both real estate.
hmm
Is there a lot of difference? We don't have to go detail, but is there a lot of difference in law and buying a property up there?
In the law part, not really, but in how it works, it's every state is absolutely different in the nuances. Best example I can give you is up in New York, everybody has to lawyer up because realtors are not allowed to write contracts. They write the offers, they get them accepted, but then it goes on to an attorney who takes the basics and they put it into a formal contract, gets negotiated that way. And up in New York, um, down here, the settlement agent usually does your closing for you. They put all the paperwork together, they get everything done. Up in New York, not exactly. It's the attorneys who kind of put all the paperwork together. The bank attorney, if there's a mortgage, they usually run the closing. And someone from the title company just kind of shows up to give you out your marked up title search, and that's about it.
So down here, when you're working with a realtor, most of the times, or some of the times, realtors are writing contracts. And what
Mhm.
I find is the realtors that write the best contracts are in conjunction with their attorneys that they're working with. And I find that that makes it much easier process for everybody.
Yeah, I do a lot of teaching. I'm very active at the board, and I teach contracts classes and other classes. And I always say to all the realtors, whether I'm involved in your deal or not, it doesn't matter. Call me if you have any questions. If you need something written, I'm not charging you for it. It's something that we do, and it's not just me. Most real estate attorneys will do this as well, because we'd like to raise the level here and make life easier for everybody. And hopefully, it means that there'll be better business for all of us.
Sure, and I find that too, helping realtors, helping other people in different parts of this industry. If we can level everybody up, then everyone kind of has a smoother process and it's just a better environment for all buyers and sellers in Florida.
Sure, that's the idea. I mean, people should be very happy with what's going on. I got a phone call today, in fact, from somebody who was referred to me by a settlement agent. All right, there are two different types of settlement agents here in Florida. Either you can go to an attorney or you can go to a title company. Title companies are usually not owned by attorneys and they don't have attorneys on staff. So there are certain limits to what they can and can't talk about. And they referred this woman to me because she was having a problem in terms of her buyer canceled the contract wrongfully, she believes. And she actually had been in contract with this buyer previously, who canceled the contract previously wrongfully. And they said, Peter, can you just talk to her at least because they can't get into the ins and outs of what happens if you go to litigation for down payments. I was able to talk to her, and I hope I was able to give her the information she needed.
I'm sure you did. Let's get back to who you are real quick. So you're in New York, you came here. I got to ask you, what made you decide to get into law?
Wow, that's a great question. The answer is, bottom line, I look good in a suit. And and you're laughing, but what happened was I actually always wanted to be a marine biologist. That was my passion. I wanted to be the American Jacques Cousteau. My parents and other people who knew me had no clue whatsoever what I was talking about. I had nobody to help mentor me. I went to a specialized high school in New York City for marine biology, loved it. Then I went to Southampton College for a year, and didn't exactly love it, especially since my professors were saying, "Get out now while you can. Jacques Cousteau isn't real, and you're going to eat your experiments." And me being foolish, I listened to them. So I transferred. I went to NYU. And if I had been smart, and if I had known, I would have gone into their film program, learned about film, because that's what I really needed to know. I had the science background to be able to do what I needed to do. I had actually taken French for, oh God, I don't know how many years, since like fourth grade, because if you want to go on board Calypso, you had to speak French.
Sure.
Yeah. And but I was at NYU, and instead of that, what does a nice Jewish boy from New York do? Well, you're supposed to be a doctor. Unless, of course, you're not that smart, then you become a lawyer. If you're totally an idiot, you become an accountant. Those are the only three you have. That's it. And so I was pre-med, and I was filling out my forms for medical school. And I just said to myself, what is wrong with you? You can't stand the sight of blood. You hate being around sick people. Why would you want to do this to yourself? So when I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I took a year off. First job I got was working for a law firm. Decided, look good in a suit. Okay, I'll be a lawyer.
Well, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. That solidified that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So your family, what is your big why? What do you love to travel? Is there a hobby that you love? Um, so we always pick a business, and we pick a business to support something.
hmm
What is that why? What is your goal and
You
that
know,
why?
that's a wonderful question. And the answer is I'm looking forward to retirement so I can do the why. Because as I was told before I went into law school, the law is a very jealous mistress and it takes up a lot of your time. I am looking forward to being able to volunteer at Moat Marine, because marine
Yeah, of
biology and doing
course.
stuff like that. I love teaching, so that'd be something I can throw in there. As you know, I one of my hobbies is stand up, and I really enjoy doing that. I'd like to be able to do that a little bit more. Unfortunately, McCurdy's, their open mic night, I think, is on either Wednesday or Thursday, the middle of the week. It's a school night, guys. Come on. And it doesn't open till 10. And this is Sarasota. I'm asleep by 9. So it's a little tough right now, but those are some of the things I want to do. I'm also looking forward to doing some projects around the house, gardening, making things. I like all those things.
That's awesome. Um, you know, I know that we do a lot of, I'm involved with a lot of marine biology projects and the reefs and Moat Marine.
hmm
And so the next time I do anything, I'll make sure that I hit you up and see how you want to be included in that because we love to do that stuff. So that's great. Now, your office, how many people are at your office right now?
Well, right now there are, I guess, two and a half, three. It's me. I have a paralegal, Lisa, who is absolutely terrific. And I have an attorney who we call her of counsel. She has her own practice, but there's a lot of work that I provide to her that she helps me out on so that I can get through the day. So it's just us. I'd like to grow a little bit bigger, not much, but I'd like for her to be able to take over and, you know,
Sure. Let you retire,
that would
right?
be
That would be
nice.
great.
Yeah. My
That'd be
wife is the
great.
one who won't let me retire, by the way.
Are you looking for anyone additional? Are you
Not right
right now?
now, but
Do you always
things are
take
good.
resumes for the future?
I will always take resumes. Absolutely. I'm always happy to talk to people.
How would someone get into being a paralegal?
That's that's a great question. And the better question is, how does somebody become a real estate paralegal?
Sure.
Well,
Yes.
the
Understood.
first answer is there are schools that teach paralegal. So you might want to go ahead and look into getting your degree. If you don't want to get a degree, watch for law firms that, if you want to do real estate, that say we do real estate, and they say we need someone to do closings. Or a settlement agency, a title company that needs someone to do closings. You will at least get your foot in the door and get a start. Now, it's interesting you asked that. You want to know the difference between New York and Florida. In New York, paralegals, you know, are basically someone who went to school and got their degree. The way you learn how to do closings in New York is you've got to know a real estate attorney who's going to get you into a title company to teach you how to do closings so that you can go around and do, I told you, the title company send out someone so you can do those closings. It's a very different situation.
Right, right. Yeah, I've understood that there's quite a bit of difference in different states, and that's why, that's why when you're using, it's best to use local people that know the local jurisdictions and rules.
Yeah. And by
Uh,
the way, that doesn't just talk about settlement agents. It also goes to, like you do, mortgage brokerage. Mortgages, people don't realize the laws here in Florida are a little bit unusual. Our homestead laws are very, very strong, and a lot of companies don't understand how that can affect a real estate transaction and can affect a
sure.
mortgage.
Yeah.
And it's just so much easier when we deal with someone who is knowledgeable about local things rather than having to deal with, well, I've got my guy out in Wisconsin and he does my mortgages for me. And it's like that's fine, but I can pretty much assure you they have no clue what we can and cannot do in Florida. And it makes for a little bit more difficult situation because they want things that we can't do. We
Right.
need things that they're like, what do you need that for?
Right, right,
It's
right,
that
right.
type of a thing.
And I find that people tend to think that Florida's a little bit of a higher closing cost state than other states. When they come here, they might not be used to deed stamps and a couple of other items. But the great thing is, you're paying kind of, I like to mention it's more like an impact fee in a way to move here, but then you're not paying income tax,
Hmm.
you know. So the savings overall is drastic.
Yeah, well, the way I like to explain it to people is the state of Florida needs to stay in business. And
Yeah,
this is how it stays in business through real estate taxes
right.
like this. We don't, like you said, we don't have an income
Yeah.
tax. We don't have a tax when you die. There's no estate tax. So, it all somehow or other, we got to pay for it.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's how it is. And it works out well. I mean, most people are very understanding of it.
So, I want to walk through, let's say that when we're getting a contract, and maybe not the minor details, but the macro of what you have to do to make sure that we have clean title, that the title transfers properly, that it's vested properly. What are the main components that if you're a seller or a buyer, that you want to make sure that it's right?
Well, the biggest thing is knowing who the seller really is. It's easy if it's John Doe and Jane Doe, husband and wife, because that's who they are. But what if there's a trust? Who is the trustee? Who's the right person to be signing the contract? What if somebody passed away? Who is legally entitled to sell the property? If it's a corporation or an LLC, and we have a lot of those because people buy second homes here or they buy something to rent out and they put it into a company. That you need to know who's the right person. If it is a husband and wife, but only the husband's on the deed, if it's homestead, you need both of them to sign on that contract. And it all comes down to the very start who has to sign the deed, who has to sign, sorry, the contract. Within the contract, there's a lot of other things that go on. Who's going to pay for the title insurance and all those closing costs that you talked about? Generally, sellers pay for doc stamps that you talked about. That's what you pay when you transfer a house, it's doc stamps on the deed. However, if you're buying new construction
That's
from a
right.
developer, they are not paying those doc stamps.
Right, because
You,
it's
the
never
buyer, get to
actually
pay.
been deeded before. So that's what I explain a lot of times to people. Hey, so, they've deeded this, it's in their name, they're paying the deed stamps when they transfer it. And, as a seller for a new construction, they've not deeded this house. You're going to be the one that deeds this house and you pay it, you know?
Well, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
The True way of putting it is they're the builder. You want to buy their house, you're going to pay them for it. And
Yeah.
good luck negotiating
They're in
anything.
control. Yeah.
They do not negotiate at all. I was doing a seminar for realtors about construction contracts, where you're buying new construction. And I said to them in the very beginning, just so you know, even if there are two periods at the end of a sentence, and I call them up and say, could you just take out one of those periods? They're not going to take it out.
Yeah.
And there was a woman there laughing and shaking her head. I said, you work for a builder, don't you? She said, yeah, and you're right. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
It's part of your purchase price.
Right.
By the same token, there is no law that says the seller must pay those doc stamps.
Right. You can
You can
negotiate that in your contract.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just normally not done. The other strange thing is paying for your title insurance. Who's supposed to pay for the owner's policy? It is by tradition based upon the county in which the property is located. Most counties in Florida are traditionally seller pays counties, which means the seller will be paying for the title insurance for the buyer because the theory is in my contract, I'm guaranteeing to you that I'm giving you good title, marketable title. And the way that I do that is by giving you that policy of insurance. However, some counties are buyer pays because the theory is I don't want to trust your title insurance because even though insurance is good and you need it, it's a great thing to have. The last thing you want to do is have to use it.
Sure.
Nobody is ever happy when they have to put in a claim. It means that something went wrong. We're hoping nothing goes wrong. By the way, things go wrong a lot. We just never hear about it because we take care of it through those policies in the background. But if you don't have a policy and there's a problem, you're going to be very sorry. So, it's interesting here where we are, Sarasota. Sarasota is traditionally a buyer pays county. All of the surrounding counties were traditionally seller pays counties, except Manatee has kind of moved into the buyer pays for the Lakewood Ranch and southern part of Bradenton, most of Bradenton. But if you're out in the more rural areas, those are still seller pays areas where it's expected the seller's going to pay.
And I find that, especially being hyper local, right? As a hyper local lender or person, you're used to the different traditions because
Hmm.
that's what it is. It's a tradition. It's not, written in stone, and any those things can be negotiated. What other big ticket items are there when you're going through? Uh,
Well, the biggest one, of course, is the doc stamps on the deed.
yeah,
The other one is if you're getting a mortgage, there are mortgage taxes that you have to pay.
right.
Now, on a deed, you're paying what works out to $7 for every $1,000 that you're selling for. On the mortgage, the simple rule, which is not correct, is $5.50 per thousand. But that's because it's broken up into two different taxes. There's doc stamps, $3.50 per thousand. And then there is something called the intangible tax, which is two, not $2 per thousand, it's 20 cents per $100.
Right.
So it
Right.
gets a little different. There are pennies in there.
Sure.
But that's another large expense. Your title insurance is also depending upon the price of the house. And here, the average price is about $700,000. So your title insurance is going to run north of $3,000. But that's probably the best money that you're paying. And if you are getting a mortgage, your owner's policy is actually going to be significantly less when you look at it, which
Because of the
brings
simultaneous issue.
yes.
Right.
All right. And what Tony's talking about is when you buy a house and take out a mortgage, your lender requires you to get title insurance, mainly because the lenders cannot sell those properties in the secondary market, the mortgages, without title insurance, because everybody knows how important it is. Things happen, and we want somebody standing behind the title so we don't have a total loss. Under Florida law, When you buy your owner's policy, you are supposed to get a simultaneous issue, and it's supposed to be, quote, a minimum of $25. Now, a lot of places charge more than the minimum. My personal belief with the laws the way they are, you're not allowed to mark things up unless you have added something to it to give it more value. Nobody's giving you any more value in being able to mark up those mortgage policies, but they make more money by doing it, and nobody really knows to look at it. But if your simultaneous rate is $25, if you're getting, for example, 80% financing, well, 80% of your title insurance is being paid because you got that loan, you have to buy it, which means only about 20% of the cost is what you're paying to get the owner's policy. For those few $100s extra, I tell people that's even worth more than what you're paying me. And I never have bought any real estate in my life without getting title insurance. And trust me, I know how to do lookups. I was trained. I sat at a title company for over a year learning how to actually do all the lookups and be able to do things myself. I know how to find out what's going on. I know the status of title. I still buy title insurance. And there's a reason. It gives
There's
you a lot of other things. For example, fraud. I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot of fraud going
there
on
is a
now.
lot of fraud.
Yeah. What have you heard?
Well, I've seen many times where, especially when it comes to people wiring their EMDs or their final cash to close to the wrong place, and which to bring to that point right now, always call the company you're working with to make sure that you verify wiring instructions. But yeah, there's been a lot of different fraud. You know, they will somehow try to hack into your email or their email, and you know, it's mostly into the customer's email because most of our emails are very secure, but they'll see an email from us and they'll duplicate it, and then they'll find a way to make it look like you or someone else is sending them an email based on the transaction.
Mhm.
And it's just amazing, you know, what people can do. Now, it doesn't happen all of the time, of course. So,
No.
you know, for the most part, you're going to be safe, but you just got to pay attention.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to give you another one where title insurance is incredibly important. And that's in the sale and purchase of vacant lots. There are a lot of vacant lots down in Port Charlotte, Northport area that are being sold. A lot of people have owned them for years and years and years and years. And now they're finally worth something.
Right.
Scammers look for a lot that's owned by somebody usually out of state. They claim to be that person and they put it either with a realtor saying, "I'm the guy, could you list it for me?" And, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Or they just put it up on Zillow or something like that, and it's usually somewhat below market. So people are like, "Oh, this is great. I'm gonna jump on this. I'm gonna pay all cash for this lot." And it's very hard because if somebody's out of state, here in Florida, we do a lot of what are called mail away closings. Most people don't live here full time. So we're used to sending documents to different states, even overseas, for people to sign and send back. It's very easy to steal a notary stamp. And I'm not talking about the physical stamp. All you've got to do is go online,
Sure.
look it up, and oh, here's what his stamp looks like. Very easy to phony that up. So now all you have to do is sign your name, put that little stamp on it, make it look like it's real, and send it back, and it looks like you're good. Also, I had a situation. I have a client right now who lost two lots. We're getting them back. Thankfully, because the buyers had title insurance, the title insurance company is paying those buyers their money back, and then they are going to deed it back to my client. It takes time, but
So that's
that's
a
what you
good
need.
point because
Fraud.
I've never seen that. So that's awesome to know
Yeah.
that if you're doing that, you get caught in that situation, that title insurance gave them their money back.
Fraud is covered under your title
Yeah.
policy. Absolutely. Forgery is covered. Those type of things.
And
And it's almost impossible to fully protect against.
yeah.
I mean, we right now, if we send documents out to a seller to sign, we must use our notary service. We have to be the ones who order it, who send it over there and have them do it because at least they are vetted.
Right.
I'm expecting that everything's going to be good. By the same token, though, on this one where my client lost his houses, the seller had a driver's license, a good looking, a real, not like when we were kids
Yeah.
and we used it to get into the bar. These were real looking driver's licenses with their picture on it, and they fooled the notary.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only do so much, but the fraudsters are very good, and that's why it's so important. Title insurance protects you.
And I work with a lot of realtors that I've seen, and even my wife's a realtor, and it's funny because I'm not a super skeptical person. I'm going to be diligent and vigilant, but I just don't assume a lot of things are, in a bad way, right? My wife is very scrutinizing of everything, and she'll look at a property and be like, this is way undervalued. Why are they selling this property so low? She starts digging into it, and I've seen other people, where they've gotten calls through WhatsApp, through different
Mhm.
ways of getting to you, and multiple ways. When you start seeing people from other countries in multiple ways trying to get to you, that seems to always be an indicator of some kind of fraud that's going to be committed.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I'm surprised that you're not as wary as your wife
well, I am
because
when it comes to reviewing documents,
well,
but in
I'm
general,
talking about
you
just
know,
emails.
yeah, yeah, of
You,
course, emails. We are,
me,
yeah,
your wife, we
yeah,
all have targets on our
yeah,
back. I don't know how many you get, but I must get 10 phishing emails a day.
yes. Well,
Thankfully, I can recognize them.
yeah, and what I mean is, like, personally out in public,
Oh,
I'm a very trusting
oh yeah.
person, but the great thing about our company, and, we are so that is something that's just brought to our attention all the time. You don't click on it,
No.
you go and you find the actual link and you go to where you need to go, and you pay attention, especially to any types of different names, because it's easy to follow that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
easy to find that. When it comes to that, yes, of course, because you have to follow basic vigilant rules, and but when it just comes to, immediately trying to look to see who's scamming me, it's like I'm not out there looking for that, so
No.
but I notice it when it's happening. I'm just a more trusting person. Let's get
Well, I wanted to bring one
yeah,
thing up
yeah,
for
go
you
ahead.
because, that's why I like working with companies like yours who I know, who I've worked with, because when I get emails from you or I get something, I know it's something I can trust because there's stuff in there just in the that you can just see
Yeah,
that says, "Okay, this is real."
yeah,
I cannot tell you how many different mortgage companies and lenders send me an email that says, "Click here for a secure portal to come check on your documents."
yes,
Okay, which documents?
yeah.
Which deal? What's the property? Nothing there. I'm not clicking.
Yep, I've had
I'm not
click
touching
here
it.
for your closing disclosure from
Yes.
an unknown title company on a purchase I'm not even involved
Well,
with. That's a phishing
but you know
email,
what's worse? Half the time, that email I get from the lender is real.
Well,
We have to
call,
call we
double
have to
check.
call and say, "Hi, we got this from somebody at your company, but not with your thing on it, that says this is who they are and everything." It's like, who are they? I got one from somebody said, "We're with X mortgage company." I don't want to say the name. Their email address was not at that
Yeah,
company. I was like, "Don't even go near that thing."
yeah.
Then we get a second one saying, "Did you get our stuff?" And then we get a phone call. "Hey, this guy's been trying to reach you. How come you haven't clicked on his link?"
Why is he using his personal email?
Because he
Yeah,
works remotely.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
No, it's you would but I would expect that banks
Yeah.
especially would be much more attuned to it, but
Well, we
not
are in the
everybody.
business.
You guys are great.
When I'm outside, in public, that's a very different story,
Yeah.
but what's great about, working local too is it's easy to pick up the phone or text somebody, that and that's what's great about having a local team when There's multiple we work with multiple realtors, we work with multiple, different people, and when you put together any faction of the team that's local, then we're gonna be able to communicate and get those jobs done so much quicker and thoroughly and just make it
Oh,
seamless
yeah, and
for
so much
people.
easier to communicate
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Some larger companies, you're not dealing with the same person through the whole thing. They
Yeah.
hand you off to A, B, C, D, and they don't tell you when you're getting handed off.
Yeah. Go
It's
Right,
nice to
right,
know
right.
who am I dealing with.
This is
It
what's
really is
next. Yeah,
somebody.
that's right.
So,
So once we've hammered out a contract, we've
mhm,
decided who's paying for what, and we now know that this is the person that's selling it. We found it.
right.
What's your next step?
Okay. We then open up our file. We need to send out notices to everybody saying, okay, we're going to be doing your closing. By the way, just so you know, these are an idea of some of the costs you'll have. Mr. Buyer, if you need a survey, this is what's going to cost you. We're ordering searches. We tell them what the fees are. Again, we don't mark these things up, it's whatever the company charges us. We need to get a search for the title, and we need to get a municipal lien and permit search.
So on those, you're looking for whether or not someone has sued them, or whether they've passed judgment, or haven't paid a bill and laid a claim to it.
Or there may be a HELOC, a home equity line of credit mortgage. Most people don't realize that's really a mortgage. Well, I didn't
Absolutely.
go to a
Yeah.
closing, so that's not a
Yeah.
mortgage. Yeah, it is. It's got to be paid off.
Right.
Some people get SHIP loans, which are local
Yeah.
government loans for home improvements. Some people get down payment assistance that has to be paid back. All of these things come up on a title search.
Yeah.
Some things that don't come up are county and city liens for when you leave garbage lying around or you don't mow the lawn or other things happen. You did work without a permit. Well, those liens have to be paid too, but those are not part of the public record. We have to go elsewhere to find those liens. And we try, it's not easy for us as the settlement agent to find out if there are any open permits at least. Because if that means that somebody didn't get, they had work done, but they never got it closed out. That's a problem nowadays. And we need to make sure that those get closed out. But there's no way for us to know if work was done without a permit.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, you want to deal with people you know. Usually, the realtors I work with, they have a home inspector or two that they work with, and they ask the home inspector to do a little bit of extra work, digging to see if there might be some work that was done that wasn't permitted.
Right. Yeah, and I imagine that on a lot of your lots, you might have things that were mowed or cut down, and because it's an absentee owner, they've got racked up fees.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I another situation I have, client owned a lot, a vacant lot that this was their place to go to build and retire. They can't afford open water, but this was on a little stream. It was on a cul-de-sac. It was just perfect for what they wanted. The lot next door was bought by a builder, a spot builder, and they hired a company to clear the lot. That company cleared both lots. And now all of a sudden, the county is on my client for taking out all these trees and clearing it without a permit. And they have a problem because anytime it rains, some of their soil gets washed away and all kinds of other things going on. And yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
So,
Especially
unfortunately,
with the vast amount of lots that are down there.
oh, yeah. I mean, with all the building going on here in Florida, especially too.
You know, um, I think that if someone's listening, interested in buying a house and thinking about real estate, or a realtor, or anyone that's listening, that's specifically thinking about this, when we talk about these complicated issues, it might seem overwhelming. And the wonderful thing about it is that's why we are here, and that's what happens behind the scenes. And so that you only need to know the surface level, and understanding all the things that happen behind the scenes are so important, but you don't feel it when you have a really good company that's behind you, that's taking care of those. They're going to update you, let you know what happened, what's going on, so that you can be confident that that property is yours when you buy it, that you can close in a timely fashion. So while it might seem overwhelming, I want to talk now about encouraging people to buy a home, and how many people that maybe you've seen that get that closing table and just say, I never thought I could do this, but here we are.
It's a wonderful feeling to have helped somebody like that to get there. And I know it's a cliche, but the fact is, it's never a bad time to buy real estate. The best way for anybody in this country to be able to have something to retire on is to buy a house and treat it, though, like your home, not like an investment. Pay down your mortgage. The value will go up over time. Yes, there are short periods of time where prices come down. By the way, nobody can time the market perfectly. All right. You just can't.
You can't.
But over time, basically, it'll go up. It'll take a dip down and up and a little dip and up and a little dip. But long term, it beats inflation.
Yeah.
It does very, very well. And you're going to pay for some place to live anyway.
You're gonna
Instead of
pay
just giving,
somebody's mortgage or you're gonna pay
exactly.
somebody's expenses on the house.
Exactly. So
Why not
instead of
make them
doing that,
yours?
make it yours so that 30 years from now, hopefully less, you own that place free and clear.
A-
That's
And
a wonderful nest egg.
100%. And there's a lot of people that don't have a retirement and they're worried about passing stuff on to their kids, or maybe just being able to live better when they're older, and social security may not cut it for you. So when you're able to buy a house and ride that investment over time, and sometimes the market is good to where, hey, it's a good idea to upgrade to another house, and now all of a sudden your investment gets that much more return. And when you look at how much, even when I do the math right now of how much more someone might be paying for a 6.875 to a seven and a quarter interest rate compared to what I would call, of course, this, nobody has this crystal ball, but the four and a half, 5% rate, which could be standard, right? Even though they're paying that, if you got a $400,000 house and we're having about 4 to 5% appreciation year over year, even though people have seen a little bit of price dip, it hasn't seen the values dip. And we
Not
still
really.
look for a return at about 4 to 5% a year. So, 5% on 400,000, still $20,000 return on your investment. And you would have to be paying 20,000 more dollars in interest a year to make that a break even. And most of the time people are paying 5 to 6,000 more a year on interest right
Hmm.
now, and when people sit down and do the math, there is, like you said, when prices are when when rates are low, prices are high, and you're paying more out of pocket costs, right? And that translates into an interest rate too, because it's money that you've spent. When rates are high, prices have wiggle room. There's wiggle room in seller credits to help you offset expenses. I've got someone right now who they have the money, but they want to keep that money for any kind of extra. They're going into retirement. They want to keep that money into for safekeeping and to have it. But they're a first time home buyer, and they have a first time home buyer down payment assistance and a 3% seller credit. And to buy a home, they're coming out of pocket about $4,000 of their own funds, And I don't think people realize that, one, you don't have to put down 20%. Two, realtor's going to find you what you want. Three, your attorney is going to make sure that it's yours.
Hmm.
And the lender is going to make sure that you get it all done. And that team together can help many people.
And I'll give you one more thing. I would bet you that, especially after taxes, because you do get a tax deduction for those payments,
Sure, you do.
you're probably paying less than you would be paying for a similar place if you were renting it.
Yep.
Rents are very high right now. So you pay one way or the other. I used to tell first-time home buyers, remember I told you everybody lawyers up in New York, and
Sure.
I had a lot of first-time home buyers as clients, and they would get to the closing, and this is really what it was like. They'd see what they're paying. And by the way, you can see how old I am. I started back in the 1980s when interest rates were like 16 and 17% for a mortgage. And people would look at this and say, "Oh my God, how am I going to do this?" Because they were like this. The water was just below their chin. But the next year, they would get a raise and their mortgage didn't go up. The next year they get a raise, their mortgage didn't go up. And by the third year, they're like, "Yeah, we should have bought a bigger house because we could have afforded a lot more." That's when you start looking into trading up. Um, we had a horrible, horrible time in 2008. But that wasn't because of anything other than there were a few people who were basically flipping houses back and forth to each other, causing the prices. There was
Yep.
nothing underlying that increase in value. And the products that were being sold to people for mortgages were wonderful products for people who are very knowledgeable about what they're doing, but terrible for your basic buyer in the street.
'Cause
Yeah.
they could get in trouble quickly. Yep.
They did.
Yep.
I'm my wife hates when I do this, but this is true story. My wife, before she met me, she's a nurse. She did well, and she owned a house, and she was doing well. And her ex-husband said, "We need to buy some more houses for rental properties." She got 10 properties with 20 pick-a payment arms with no money down based upon her credit and everything else. And they were renting it. But the problem was, she didn't understand what an arm was.
Right.
It's not this thing.
Right.
It's an adjustable rate mortgage. You know
Right.
that.
And at the time, they could go sky
They
high.
they could because you started at, 1% interest rate for the first year,
Yeah.
and it won't go up until real amount for 3 years.
Yeah.
But in 3 years, there was no way she could afford all of those
Right.
things. And that's what happened. That's
Yeah.
why the market crashed.
Sure.
Today, I get calls all the time. I don't know about you. I'm waiting for the market to come down because I'm going to buy at the bottom. It's like, you know what? You're probably going to be waiting decades.
Well, even if it went down and it went down $20,000, you're not losing because of the
Yeah.
appreciation, right?
Oh,
Right now. And there were so many spec builders, sorry, that were just building and building and building. So it
it's
is
a
a totally different
very,
market now.
very,
Yes.
very different market. Yeah. What, like you said, do I expect that there's going to come a point when we're going to see a correction in the market? Yeah. 5%, 10%, maybe 15%. In other parts of the country are already starting to see that. But here in Florida, this is all demand driven.
Sure.
There is a huge amount of pent up demand to move here.
Why wouldn't you want to live here? It's beautiful, right?
I'm here.
That's right.
And the whole thing though is that from 2008 to 2018, there were 10 years when you didn't see building cranes on every corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were about 10 years behind in
Yeah.
building things and keeping up our infrastructure, and now it's going crazy again, but there's not gonna be a giant collapse again.
And we also think that we were severely undervalued. It wasn't until
Oh god,
COVID
yes.
really pointed out the gem that Florida was. So let me ask you, another thing. So when you're very analytical, you're very knowledgeable, you are to the point. And when yes,
You
it's
talking
you.
about me?
Yep. And what really aside from all those things, what makes you happiest sitting across the table from someone that you know that you've done a great job for?
Okay. I mean, I've been doing this long enough, and I've done tens of thousands of closings,
Yeah.
and when I see people who have been wanting all their life to own something that's theirs, to know that they have their own piece of land that they're going to be able to have and keep and live in. They are just so thankful that we were able to get them to that point. There's no feeling like that in the world. It really is a wonderful thing. When people come back and say, "Thank you, Peter. You made this a lot easier than it probably could have been. We really appreciate you." That's what it's all about. That really is. I love trying to help people get through things. You talk about, knowledgeable and things like that. My background, I didn't give you everything, but I am licensed to teach real estate to brokers for credit. I used to work for a title insurance kind of sort of underwriter. And I was in charge of their education department. We went out and we were teaching 5,000 real estate attorneys in the state of Florida what the laws were. I also worked as an underwriter for that company. So I've got a lot of knowledge regarding the process, what is supposed to happen, and how it's supposed to happen. And I'm just looking to try and help people get through. You asked me, why did I go into law? I told you, look in the suit. After my first year of law school, I was like, boy, I made a mistake. I don't want to do this. But I decided, this is what I'm going to do. And I thought about it. I said, I want to be a real estate attorney because buyers want to buy, sellers want to sell, and they need somebody to help them through what is, quite frankly, a very complex transaction. All right, it's not something people do every day. I was like, that sounds like it would be a nice, fun thing to do. And most of the time, it is. Most of the time, it's great where you're helping people achieve something that you know is going to be a great thing for them. So, yeah, there's
And
there's something to be said for that.
that's great. That's great to get to know you like that. And when you have something that has such a great reward possibility, you can't expect there to not be a little bit of difficulty and stress too, because so many things are riding on it. There's so many emotions, there's so many needs and desires, and why are you selling your property and why are you buying a property? So for us to be able to come together and take away that as much as possible, rough off, loosen off the edges so that it's smooth. It's just really great for people.
Yeah, and that's why, one last thing that I really have to say to people. Like I said, I've been doing this for almost 40 years. I've worked with lots and lots of realtors, and most people are like, "Ugh, realtors." They watch HGTV and they think that all they do is they sit by the pool, they get on their phone. It's like, how much? 40 million? No, no, we want 42. Oh, good. You got me the 42? Fantastic. Hey, I just made a lot of money. That's really not how it is.
Right.
Not at all. Not even close. Most realtors are very hardworking, very dedicated, trying to do the right job for their customers. And by the way, a good realtor will save you money. They will also save you from a lot of headaches. They are professionals in the sense that when something comes up that's not normal, they will know who to refer you to. They'll know where to go, or they'll know who to ask for where to go. And that's key because I once tried to write down all the different things that realtors do, and I had like 40 different jobs. Another realtor said to me, Peter, you really weren't working so hard. I go way over 100.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's so complex, and you need somebody to help you through it. What you want is someone who you've been referred to so that this is a person who knows what they're doing, who is going to be able to help you through this because they've helped other people. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing when you find the right person.
And to that point, realtors will work and talk to 100 people, um, so that they can make earnings of their skills on one transaction. So I've heard, oh, they're overpaid. Well, they'll get this. No, no, they're not. No, they don't just send you a drip campaign. They've thoughtfully, carefully thought out how they're going to send it to you, and even though it looks like it's coming automatically, they are trying to hone it to every time you have a change, they're fixing it, they're always looking, and I know that they're combing too through making sure that they're getting the right property for you and
Oh,
doing the right thing, so,
and there's so
yeah,
much more too.
there's so
The
much. Yep.
dirty little secret about it all is the first 2 or 3 years that they're working, they're not making a lot of money at all. And I say to new agents when I'm teaching them, I said, do not keep track of your hours and do not look at how much you're earning per hour this year because you'll realize you were better off, minimum wage.
Anywhere. Yeah,
Minimum wage, you were going to do
yeah.
better. But if you stick with it and you treat it like a real profession and you're building a business, it takes time. And you build it over 5 or 6 or 7 years. At that point, it's not as tough because you know what you're doing and you're getting referrals in instead of having to mind them all yourself. And you will make a decent income. You're not going to, very few agents become millionaires as realtors, but they do make enough to be a middle class lifestyle, which is great. And it's wonderful because, quite frankly, the bar to get in is low.
Yeah, like you said, someone will watch HGTV and say, "Oh, I can do that." That's why when you look, there's so many realtors on the books, but there's only about 10% of them that are really that have come to finely tuning their craft and that are out there really selling. There's a bunch trying to make it, and then there's a bunch thought it'd be a good idea, and they're not just continuing. So I totally agree with you on that, and what I find that it takes to be a realtor in this market or any market is the ability to persevere, the
Oh, gosh,
ability
yes.
to pivot. You have to be creative, you have to educate yourself, and you have to give as many times at bat as possible. Repetition is key in this
Oh,
business.
gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And again, yes, you seller, you're paying this agent for your one transaction. But for your one transaction, this agent has probably taken 10 other people around to look at houses and got nothing. May have had 5 other listings that just couldn't get sold for whatever reason. This is how we have, as a society, felt we should pay for real estate. It's based upon the production. Well, if we were paying them hourly, trust me, very few people would
Yeah,
want to be paying them.
that's right. That's right. Totally
So
agreed.
it works out well, and it's fair.
Absolutely.
My son called me a few years ago and said, "Dad, I'm thinking about buying a house." He's up in Connecticut, so there wasn't much I could do. I don't need a realtor, do I? And this is my son,
Did he feel the book through the phone?
and he's very intelligent. And I said to him, "Really? Okay, so how do you know what school districts you want to be in?" "Well, I can look that up." I said, "Okay, yeah." "And how do you know what's going on with the market, where it's at? Some things are going up, some things are going down. How do you know where the right places to be are? How do you know about all the different things you need to know?" "Dad, are you saying to me I should use a realtor?" I said, "Hell yes.
Yes, absolutely.
There is no reason not to. This is not your thing.
Yeah.
You would not go and perform surgery on yourself. You wouldn't go and well, some people pull their own teeth out, but you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Um, let the experts,
It
let the
would be like pulling your own teeth
oh,
out.
it's worse.
That's right.
Oh, believe me, I do, as an attorney, I do help FISBOs, for sales by owner. And I'll tell you, it's once in a while, it's a pleasant experience, but it's tough. It's very tough because you've got 2 people now, neither one of whom have a lot of experience doing this, trying to make this thing work, and they have to work together in order for it to work, but they're really not sure how to.
There's no professional to bridge the communication and the emotions
Exactly.
because the professionals keep the emotion of the buyer on this side and they keep the emotion of the seller on the other side, and they work together in a hopefully emotion free environment that's there to get people in a win-win situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I say that's why you want somebody who you have been referred to. Someone who you will know is going to be professional because listen, you know, There are bad mortgage brokers, there are bad attorneys, there are bad realtors. And unfortunately, the very few percent of them who do that give everybody else a bad name. The
Sure.
reality is the vast majority are just hardworking people who are going to do a great job for you.
That's right. That's right. And if you guys ever, if you're watching, you need recommendations for agents, we know the best agents to work with for sure.
Absolutely.
So
Oh, and by the way, when we say the best agents, not
for
every
you,
agent is the right one for
that's
you.
right. That's right. The best agent
For
for you.
you, yeah.
That's right. For
Because
you, for your area, for your need, for what you're looking for.
and also for who you are.
Yeah.
I teach, like I said, I teach the class. This is, I know we're going long, so we're going to have to stop soon. But when I teach classes, I talk to agents. I say, if I were an agent, I would recognize when I should refer a client to somebody else. I know that I would not do well with an engineer. Somebody who is so A, B, C, D, E focused, needs every last little step explained to the bare bones to them, all the way through everything, would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person to help them, but that person is.
Right.
That's why e- everybody worries that, oh my God, when are they going to Uber the real estate business? They're not. It's too personal. Do you care really who drives you to the airport?
Nope.
Probably not.
But
But when you're buying a home, it is something very personal, very important, and it's a huge investment.
or it could be a huge mistake
That
if you're
too.
not being guided right.
That's right.
That house,
And that's why first of all, that's why there's so many realtors,
Yeah.
because everybody's different. Everybody's needs are different. And there are different realtors who handle different things better than others. That's just,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying certain people do great with this, certain people do great with something else. And you need to find the right one for you, and you'll be fine, because there is no Uber. It's not going to happen. And it's a tough business.
It sure is. And you know what, Peter? I really just want to thank you for coming on this show. My goal is to be able to reach people, to teach people, to help them over hurdles and humps and get them educated to the direction that they need to go. And this is a great episode. And I really appreciate you coming on here. This is your podcast, Pike Law. I'm so glad that you're here. And, we will put information on how to get a hold of you. But if you want to just say, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you to work with
All
you?
right. Well, the best way is to call my office, 941-312-2580. You can just Google me. It's Pike Law Firm in Bradenton, Florida. It shows up pretty quick. I should be pretty high up if you go real estate attorney in Bradenton. And you'll be able to find me, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions and talk to people. By the way, like I said, I don't charge realtors if they call me and say, Peter, can you help me fix something over here? I don't charge clients either, or potential clients. If somebody calls me, I'll give you a 10-15 minute phone
Advice is
conversation
advice is
for free.
complimentary.
I don't
Yeah,
charge for those things.
that's good.
If there's something I can do to help you, then we'll talk about what I'll charge you for it.
That's right. Well, again, Peter, thank you so much for coming on Fire Up Your Life. And I truly appreciate working with you. Thank you.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Absolutely.